All right, guys, welcome back to the New Nine Golf Podcast. It's been a little bit since you've heard from us, but we're ready to keep pumping out some good podcasts for you. And today we are joined by some other fellow podcasters, some fellow golf podcasters. These guys know exactly what it takes to pump out this content. They know it's not easy, and you got to align schedules, and you got to have a love for golf. And I think that's what it all comes down to. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the boys from the Four Jack podcast. Boys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Brandon. Thank you, my friend.
This is an awesome chance for me because, like I said before we started recording, I was sitting in your guys' shoes. I was the interviewee. Now I get to be a little bit more comfortable as the interviewer. When you guys started a podcast, who was that initial person that had that idea that says, I want to start asking some golfers some questions?
Well, I'll jump in there. That was me, stuck in Sydney at the time. I was taking a marketing class and I needed to start a business, and I missed chatting with my friends at home. And I was like, you know what? We like golf. We like to talk. And I think this is what's going to work. And Tom and I started doing it. Tom was in his car at like 3 a.m. I was sitting in my bed. We were literally doing it over the phone, just running it off Anchor. And it sounded like we were running it off of a phone as well. And it was an experiment, to say the least.
I did a shitty job introducing you guys. So who you just heard was Chris. We got two Chris's and a Tom. Tom's rocking a wicked, looks like a goat track hat.
Yeah, it's one of the signature GTSC hats. Loving it. Got a couple different colors. This one's the black and pink, but I appreciate you noticing that.
And then we've yet to hear from our second Chris on the show. Chris rocking the backwards yellow snapback. Chris, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, man. Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having us on. I had to get up and get a hat because I felt left out. So fresh cut from the barber. Wanted to show it off a little bit, but felt a little underdressed. So
it's funny you say fresh cut. I was there too. You probably can't tell, a little beard trim. But with all this COVID stuff going on, they've been closed for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it's similar to where you guys are, if restrictions are lifted. Is life back to normal? Where are we in just sense of life right now?
Parksy, you take this one.
Well, this is so different. Hey, we always know what's going on with the show, but being on the other side of it, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting landscape we're navigating in Vancouver. We've never really been shut. Dining has only ever gone to worst case scenario patios, and obviously Vancouver, we're very fortunate to have some pretty awesome weather. So it's never felt like a total disconnect, but obviously things are starting to open up. We're looking forward to July 1st when there's some more restrictions gone. And then I understand today somebody mentioned that with your second vaccination, there will be no more mandatory quarantine, and then they might be opening up the borders for travel. So fingers crossed, the Four Jack and New Nine can maybe sneak down across the border and do some battles.
See you in Bandon.
I like it, man.
Sorry, Brandon. I'm just going to jump in there and
go ahead.
My life has been a little different throughout COVID. I believe in social distancing on the best of days because people are just wild and crazy, and it's like always keep our distance. But yeah, I went down to the States, New York, in the heart of it, just to like see what a place of that magnitude is like during a pandemic, right? Like crazy time. So I've been low key moving, shaking, spreading the gospel of the Four Jack podcast. As far as my maintenance of self, let's say, it looks like I kind of came out of the woods. You and I were kind of like going that mullet route, which seems to be in vogue these days, but just made it into Vancouver with these boys. So it's nice to be reunited with them. And we played our first round of golf together on Friday, which was amazing.
Playing with your buddies is like, I'll never take it for granted again. We've been closed. Our course made us just play as either you have to be single, or if you live by yourself, you could have a cohort. So you could list 2 people to play with, or a spouse. So luckily my wife golfs. We played together, but I couldn't play with any buddies, run tournaments, do any of that fun snip type, gambling, chirping environment that I think it's been good for everyone's mental health anyway, for us in Calgary to finally get some restrictions lifted.
I feel like some of these rules, like Alberta didn't have any of that last year, man. And it was like, we were just free balling it everywhere. Like even when you come out here, there's no rules. I was booking in as a single with randoms every single weekend. It's like, man, come on. Like Alberta, Canada, wake up, drop the rules. Let's go. Open it up.
Could have been Ontario, bro.
Could have been worse. You're right.
T-Pace is looking more like Florida, right? That's what he's aiming to be.
Yeah, Texas.
Lean a little red right now.
Ain't no COVID down there. Oh, you got your driving arm. Show Brandon your driving arm.
Yeah. Looking good. Guys, I want to hear about your golf or your history with golf. So I'll give you each the floor a little bit. Parksy, I'm going to start with you, buddy. Give me a little background on you as a golfer. When did you start playing? What kind of golfer are you now? And where'd the love of the game come from?
I think a lot to do with being raised with a father that played the game, was an absolute pig. Like, I was fortunate to have a childhood where my father spent majority of his time at a golf course. I didn't even know I had other members of my family, because basically anyone in the pro shop was kind of like, the people that I resonated with. So, introduced at a really young age. First set of golf clubs went down the well in the backyard at about 1.5, and I cried and cried and cried until I got another set. But played a lot of competitive junior golf, like UCT, junior golf, Optimist World tournaments, that kind of stuff. Was pushed pretty hard, and then took a bit of a break from golf and found sort of a passion for culinary. And once upon a time, my journey led me to a golf course and ended up playing some golf with the pros. And a kitchen guy taking a bunch of money off the golf shop staff wasn't a good thing. So it kind of made my reevaluation of where my life was, and kind of leaned on these guys to find out what being a golf pro was all about and what playing competitive golf was all about. So pursued that a little bit, and it was sort of taken back at the capacity where, hey, I want to be a golf professional, but I actually wanted to play and didn't know the difference between a club pro and a playing pro. So I endured the golf program at Grant McEwen, met a lot of great people, turned pro, was a club pro in Alberta for a long, long time. Spent some time down in the US caddying, playing, trying to chase the dream a little bit, and took a back seat to a career and a girlfriend, trying to make a living, and golf was kind of sidelined for a while, but I've always stayed connected to the game. And then obviously with the Four Jack, it's just been another opportunity to reconnect. So as far as a player right now, I would say there's a lot of work going on, a lot of demons, but it's fun to get out and bang it around with the boys. And it's been fun to, engage with the community and create this sort of all-inclusive group of people to share our love for the game.
That's cool to hear. That it's funny that you say you had a dad at a golf course, because I think a lot of people can relate that to. The golf is such a handed down sport that a lot of times, if your parents golf, chances are you'll have a club, like you said, at 1.5. That's it must have been a pretty deep well if those clubs couldn't come back up for you.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It's funny, in my parents' house before my dad passed away, they actually had a room, a full-on bedroom dedicated, and it was my dad's golf room, and it had all his golf stuff. And he had prizing from tournaments from 1980, and there's brand new Pro Vs in boxes from 1981 and that kind of thing. So it just gives you a little context as to the passion he had for the game. And I got a little bit of it. So super fortunate.
Last follow-up for you before we go around the horn to the other guys. You were caddying a bit in the States. So tried to make it as a player, couldn't. Was there an aha moment that you thought, maybe I should try a different avenue, but to stay in golf? Were guys just shooting scores, or was it? I know there's so much that takes into professional golf, from the mental side and funding and a lot of stuff. What specifically to you made you think I might need an alternate route to get in here?
There was too many of us, and we were Canadians, graduated college down in California, and it wasn't serious enough. So I guess if I could take it back, I would have disconnected from the group and gone down my own route. But a lot of great life experiences. And I was super fortunate to caddy at two of the most exclusive private clubs in North America. So had the opportunity to play with PGA Tour players, saw celebrities on a regular. I had a great woman that I still keep in contact with that I caddied for. I did 5 loops at the Bob Hope. So always had pros in our groups, still connected with some of those guys to this day. So at some capacity, you're out there playing, you're spending money, and you're thinking, man, I am good, but I'm not quite good enough. And when guys coming out, they shoot 62, 63 with a bogey, and they're screaming about how bad of a day they've had, and you're grinding out 200 or 300 par, and you're thinking, wow, I played my ass off. Then it's kind of okay, now I got to think about something else, because obviously this isn't going to pay the bills.
Golf is one of those sports that you think you have a good day and someone somewhere out there is like 10 times better than you. It's so gross how good these guys are.
Honestly, fortunately, caddying in some crazy groups. I played a lot of golf with Steve Flesch. I don't know, multiple tour players. Anyway, just caddying with these guys. And honestly, when you get to that level, there's good players and then there's guys that just don't miss. We had a guy on the show last night, the Four Jack podcast, who spent a lot of time with Colton Oast, and he was coming into it thinking, oh man, I'm going to beat the crap out of this guy. And he played with him, and Colton just never missed a shot. And I can relate to that because I've seen that kind of golf from guys. Their dispersion is nothing. They roll every putt in the center of the cup. They don't miss, there's no flares, there's no snipes. Everything is just absolute center of the club face. So unless you got that in your bag, it's a tough crowd to navigate.
Tom, I'm going to start grilling you here. I don't know you, but we've seen each other on webcam a couple times. I get the feeling that you kind of give off this, maybe I don't take it so seriously, but I got a feeling that you're kind of a stick on the golf course.
I don't know how I would describe it, but I take golf pretty seriously internally for sure. Like I just want to kind of go back into how I got into golf to begin with.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I've always felt a connection to the game before I even actually started. And I got my into golf because my mom and I would go play mini golf when I was 8 or 9. And I was like, I just love getting the ball in the hole, right? Like hole in one's at mini golf, greatest time ever. But growing up, family at that point was golf's a little too expensive. So play soccer, right? That's cheap. You can do that, enjoy it. And then it kind of got to the point where I was at my friend's house and his mom had a couple of golf clubs lying around in the basement, and they had this huge ass park in the backyard. And we would just go hit the golf balls to the soccer nets, right? Playing the original urban golf, to the point where my mom and dad were okay, he's clearly serious about this. Got me a first junior set. I think I made a birdie my second round of golf ever, actually. I was out with a sister's boyfriend, and we were playing where CPAs actually used to work, at the old Sherwood Park golf course. First hole, hit a driver, hit a second shot to 5 feet off the green and just hit a putt, and it dropped. And he's like, did you just make a birdie? So I was pretty much hooked from that point on. As far as the competitive side of golf goes, I never really I think I played one high school golf tournament, but I always thought maybe there's an opportunity to go somewhere, but I think my entrepreneurial spirit kind of took over, and it's I'm going to just build a business. My idea was always let's get good at golf. Let's learn how to build a business. And then one day, maybe if I actually somehow figure out how to do what Parksy's telling us we need to do, then I have the money I can pay to go to Q school. Now the game has kind of shifted. Q school is not really what it once was, but that was kind of always it. I'm always tinkering, trying to figure out how to find that repeatable golf swing, I guess is what it is. Yesterday, took the flight scope out. We have our new TaylorMade irons, and I'm trying to figure out what are the numbers looking like, because you can't miss. And I've struggled with a little bit of the chipping yips as of late. I shouldn't even say those words, but that's the truth. And always working on the game, trying to get better. And I just love the community around golf. I think is the most important thing. C Pays is one of my best friends in life. And we got golf is what brought us together. We would just pig it all day and night, and then have par 27 chip offs. And he's always had a pretty good short game, and my short game is always kind of struggled in life. I've usually been good off the tee and relatively decent as a ball striker. So it's been nice to have a guy like that in my life that I see just sashaying these little chips, getting up and down from everywhere, sinking 10 footers for par. That's kind of made me reevaluate that side of my game. It's a Jekyll and Hyde thing, is that we all know with golf, right? The podcast we built is the Four Jack podcast for a reason. And it's, I think, universal that everyone who's played golf long enough has had a four putt, right? Tiger Woods has had it. And my philosophy on it, that I try to wangle into this because our podcast has multiple perspectives, but it's how do you bounce back from a four putt, right? Go to the next tee and try and make a birdie, because that's what it's going to happen inevitably. But what do you do moving forward? But yeah, definitely don't know if the stick is the right word, but
Can be.
I can. It's happened. Like my best round is a bogey-free 65.
How are you?
Had one.
How are you?
But I've shot 91 at Tobiano on 90 minutes of sleep, and that's on YouTube, and I'll never live that one down. So
I'll ask a follow-up, Tom, and we're getting to the Man-C pace. With you guys being such close friends, has it ever come close to fisticuffs on the golf course? Has there ever been some animosity playing with each other?
honestly, I don't think so, really. Like in that regard, like there's probably been some competitiveness internally with both of us, and maybe some fisticuffs over his FaceTime call. Like it's never really, when we're in person, we vibe, and that's why we do what we do. Like we can disagree with each other, but usually we're good at talking through it. Like I think over our life, there's probably been like a handful of times where we've been like super pissed at each other.
That's good
Maybe
to know.
he feels differently.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a handful.
Yeah, like actually, like we've raised our voice to each other, maybe like a handful, like, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Chris, you've been waiting so patiently and you've had like 20 minutes to just think about how am I going to answer?
I'm loving this.
Where did this start? Give me a little bit of background into your golf, where it started and where you are today running this podcast.
Yeah, fuck. I mean, golf got into my world very early, to be honest, like 6, kind of. Like my brother was really big into the game. Put a club in my hand very young, right-handed, didn't really work too well. So I was just hitting it with the back of the blade for a bit. I'm a lefty if no one knows that, but no, it didn't work. Played kind of here and there growing up with the family, got a bit into it. But then when my dad passed, it now became like a bit of a daycare option for my mom. It was like, hey, here you go. Drop you at the course at 8 and see you at 8. And I would, kind of just spend the whole day at the course, whatever course that may be. And you just start spending a lot of time on the chipping greens, playing for loonies, just trying to get up and down against the old guys, see what you can do, see if you can play for a Coke and a grin and a basket of fries. But yeah, got into high school golf, never did well in that. Played MJT, never played well in that. But it was nice to play competitive golf. Interclub at Belvedere, played that. Grew up at Sher Park 9, like Tom said. That was actually my first job. No, not first job in business. First job was at a driving range, which was a tough scene because that was high school when I first started drinking too. And that was a bit of a wild scene, picking the range in the spring by hand after a rough Friday night. Not my favorite scene, but kids got to get some clean balls out for the people. And then I kind of moved into Sher Park golf course and then moved on to Belvedere, which was like a dream come true for me, I guess, because it was like where I grew up playing. And like Parks, I went to Grant McEwen, did the golf program. It was worth my time because the relationships that were built and like kind of developing that extreme passion for the game. Like not like it wasn't there before. The competitive side of the golf though, like I've always enjoyed playing games and getting out there, but golf for me is more like a meditative thing. Like it's funny, that guy that Parksy was talking about last night, that we talked to last night, he's like, yeah, I can't play by myself. I'm like, there's nothing I love more in life than actually playing golf by myself, because it's like I can literally tune out the world and it's like, this is your time. I mean, Tom and I, as you mentioned, built a relationship, but racing out to the course at 8:30 at night and playing till 11 and just chasing sunlight. And it's like, hey man, we're not playing against each other. We're not doing anything. It's like, this is a moment to be out here. Enjoy it. Like even if we go to a hole and just chip and putt for 3 hours, I'm down. Golf for me it's gotten a lot more serious. Like in the last few years, we're coming back into the game the last couple of years after having a break for 4. And I take it a little more serious now, to be honest. And I think I'm focused a little more, especially being around Parks, like kind of working on, hey, like you should probably focus on this and do that. And it's like, yeah, fuck, you're right. I do need to do that. That's important. Let's work on some things here. But yeah, the game is, there's very few words to describe it properly for me, but like it's something that if I don't have it in my life, I feel like there's a giant hole in life. So it's integral to life for me, and I feel like it will never leave.
Well, good on you guys for starting the podcast, because it just furthers the love you have for the game, and to stay in it at somehow or another. If it wasn't going to be on the tour or it's not in the pro shop, that you're still a part of the community. And in my opinion, it's one of the best communities to be a part of. So good on you guys for continuing the journey. That it's impressive to look at the podcast specifically that you guys have done like 185 episodes, and that's just released episodes. Like I would imagine that you guys have some in the bank too, especially if you're pumping out 185 episodes, right? I'm going to throw some questions out there. This is new for me because I've never talked to three guys at once, and it's different to go around the horn, and I want to be as inclusive as I can. So I'm just going to throw some questions out there, and whoever feels something come to mind, feel free to just ramble off.
It's a dangerous game.
We'll do the fingers up.
Yeah. Fingers.
So I want to shine as much light on your guys' podcast as possible. For those of you who are listening that haven't heard it, it is the Four Jack podcast. So relatable, Four Jack. Oh my God, story of my life, Four Jack. You've released, I'm looking at 184 episodes. Confirm if that's wrong or not. What's changed since episode 1 to 184? There's such a big gap that I'm sure it's a lot, but in a Cole's notes, what have you learned in 184 episodes?
For one, the thing that's sitting behind me, a board, that's a big difference maker, to be honest, considering we did it, like I said, over our phones on bad Wi-Fi. Didn't sound good. Even just the understanding, but like besides that, from 1 to 185, the understanding of kind of how to speak in this format, especially since a lot of our podcasts are over Zoom, and even if they're in person, I guess like doing podcasts has made me a better listener in a way. It's like you can just sit back and go, tell me what you need to tell me, and then I'll jump in when I need to. And developing questions, and even like, we always sit down before a pod and it's like, so what do you want to talk about? And it's like, come up with our game plan. Not like we didn't have it before, but it's developing more of a game plan as we go along for each and every episode. And sometimes it goes deep. Sometimes it's like, hey boys, let's wing it. And let's just attempt our best to get down a rabbit hole as deep as we can.
I'm just going to add on to that. I got a couple of little things that I've noticed. The synergy and how it's developed. And like, this is wild because now in this environment, we're kind of on your agenda. And like, we built this like dance almost where like CPAs will bring it in, send it around the table. Then Parksy does his rapid fire, not so rapid fire. I mostly just listen. And then I come in with some craziness, right? Like we've built this cool little synergy, and it's nice to like see how that vibes together. And I've noticed that like CPAs as a host, just his like level of documenting what he wants to say, and like even writing a description of the pod, right? It's like all elevated so much where it's like I see him sitting with a notepad writing down a thought that he has mid pod, because it's like you learn to like sit back and be patient, and then like, okay, it's like double Dutch, to be quite honest with you. And like sometimes you don't get in the skipping rope, right? Like you have this thing that you're like, I want to say this so bad, but like you just let it pass sometimes, and you're like, that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. Like the moment didn't need to happen always, right? And I think that's one of the things I've learned is that like patience and like the ability to just like, okay, we didn't need to say that today.
I think there's a lot of trust that's been matured and developed throughout a lot of the episodes. It's amazing to see the evolution of each person as a host, as a guest, as an interviewee. It's crazy because, like Tom kind of touched on, we were sort of jockeying for position and fighting, but everybody brings a specific element to the show. And when someone starts talking about something specific, you kind of have an idea where they're going to go. So okay, let them go on this. I'm going to have a chance to jump in here because I know what sort of street this goes down or kind of what rabbit hole we're going to go down. So that's really unique. What else is cool is the level of the guest, the stature of our guests has just escalated beyond belief. But the cool thing is we've all been just sharing stories and having a laugh and engaging on this like super casual human level. And it's never been about, oh my God, fangirling over whoever's on the show with us. It's just, we're just talking, and it's such a cool, like unrestricted space to be. And we've had nothing but compliments from everybody. Anytime we sign off, they're like, man, that was fucking amazing. Like we went on for an hour and a half and like, it felt like 10 minutes. Like you guys are so good at what you do. Where it's like, yeah, we had none of that shit planned, but it really worked out well. It's just because we vibe so good.
I do have to say on a fangirl level, there was one podcast that like really tripped me out is when we had Natasha Stanishowski on from TSN. And it was like right when COVID happened. And it's like, it's hilarious because you're used to watching her on TV and you're like, oh, like on a Zoom call, kind of like what she would be like on TV, except for the fact that like she's reporting back to you on what your thoughts are, right? And you're like, oh my, okay, this is a bit of a trip right now that we're all just huddled around a computer in a basement with Natasha on the other line. Like, yeah, too funny.
I think the fangirl moments are almost kind of funny. Like I've definitely had a few times like with McCord on, and I just like turned that like nervousness into like fire. Like I came out real hot, and Parks can attest to this. This was like I was bagged that day. Like I could barely even speak. And then he comes on. I'm like, holy shit, I've been watching this guy my whole life. And then I was like, I was just firing all cylinders. But like
some of these guys come in hot too, though. I mean, like,
well, he was drunk. So yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely, he had a few red solo cups going, but
And
it's
a
always
colonoscopy earlier.
yeah, colonoscopy, a bunch of skin cancer removal. He had all kinds of punch biopsy talk, all this like
Feeling good.
65-year-old stuff you don't want to talk about. But it's interesting too, because typically when a guest comes on the show, and this has kind of been a part of the evolution and the development of the years gone by, is you kind of got to be prepared for anything, because it's not like an interview. Okay, what's your favorite color? Red. Okay, great. What's your favorite color of, or what's your favorite flavor of pizza or ice cream or whatever? You know what I mean? So like sometimes they get a little fiery too. So we just learn how to sort of evolve and manipulate those situations to our favor. So
you guys have such a good synergy. And that was a word that one of you said earlier, that I'm going to use just a really cheesy analogy, and I'm not using this as a pun, that you guys are kind of like a pizza. The pace, you're kind of like the crust and the foundation that without you, you're not eating enough of anything. And Parks, you're kind of like the cheese, like you're kind of like the glue guy, that you're holding a lot of stuff together. And then Tom, you're kind of like the pepperoni or the pineapple or kind of whatever that flair is on that pizza. And it's not like it's two cheeses or two crusts or two pepperonis, that you guys all cohesively work together. And I learned a lot from you guys, even when I was on your guys' podcast, that you guys just complement each other so well. And it's tough to find friends that are that cohesive, but to find podcast partners that all have very similar goals and dreams and aspirations, that it was a lot of fun being on your guys' podcast. And whoever hasn't listened to it, better go listen to some Forward Jack podcast, because you guys are not only great guys, but you're all great podcast hosts. So I can recognize that from my end, having been in your guys' shoes or in your guys' shoes a little bit, that you guys are so cohesive. So it's not to like cup the balls as I blow you, but it was fun to.
It was fun. Tummy sticks over here. Jesus.
Yeah.
It was no. You guys got a good thing going. So I just wanted to say that just while it was fresh in my mind, that this pizza analogy I just thought was just so perfect how you guys work together.
I loved it, and to play the mutual admiration club, like we respect what you're doing, and even just like putting the shoe on the other foot here, like you're doing a great job of this too. Like everything you've got, like well-oiled machine, and just like hats off to you as well, right? Like you have the courage to take action, and I think that's what like all of us have in common here, which makes it awesome, is like we just do things, right? You go out and you're like, I want to build something for this community that's given me so much, and like what does that look like? I may not know, and it evolves as we go, right? But like the key is that we decided to do something about it, and that's like check out everybody's stuff, because it's cool that people are doing things.
It's before, when I had no preconceived notion about what the community was to actually be involved with, there's a lot of preconceived notion, or you always wonder how people are going to perceive things. So I think anytime that you do get a compliment, it's just that keeps pushing you into that direction. that you eventually want to be. So good for you guys for making it to $1.80. You guys talked about fangirling a little bit in some guests that you guys had. And that's one of the most impressive things to me is that podcasts are a huge portion, the guests, the guys that you can bring on and talk to. What's the process of getting a Gary McCord or Mackenzie Hughes? What's not to give away all your secrets that I'm just going to jack from you, but I'm just interested in who's sliding into the DMs and who's bringing people on board.
It starts with written abuse, like assaulting, and it works. It's effective.
Annoyance, persistence. Just
Arksy.
complete.
We have this mutant that works works with the crew here. Same initials as mine, but same name, not related. You know, Mr. Parkinson.
I don't know. I can't take all the credit. I would like to say that it's funny because everybody contributes to it, regardless of whether somebody's actually sending the messages or whatever. Because it takes a collective effort to, hey man, who do we want to pursue and why? And then that's the leverage. That's the angle that we use, whether it's me, Pace, Tom, whoever. There's always kind of something we're trying to, okay, we found the sweet spot. Let's just keep pressing. But it's super cool because typically we like to ask our guests, hey, you had a great time. Who would you think would be a good person for us to go after? Or who could you recommend? Or maybe who could you make an introduction to? And Instagram DM is the best thing ever. And having a lot of good connections in the US, all three of us, people out in Ontario, different industries. We all work for the same company behind the scenes as well in our real lives. So there's a lot of back and forth that happens with that. And it's just trying to be creative, trying to find leverage, and just being persistently annoying.
It's like, that game that they play where you get something and you go to someone's house and you say, hey, I got a spoon. Can you give me something a little better? Or like, can we trade? It's almost like that game. You're just like constantly, hey, cool. Like, who do you know that would be like, you just vibed out with us. Like, who is someone that you think would vibe with us too? Right. And then they're like, oh, I got Paul Tesori, Webb Simpson's caddy. He'll come on for sure if I let him know. And it's Parksy, like, honestly, he's downplaying his mutantness of this department, but like, that's the X factor. Is like, he is relentless in the pursuit of these people and doesn't give up until they've said, okay, I'm coming on. You listen to Mackenzie Hughes's podcast and it's like, yeah, okay. Like,
that was months.
He acknowledges how much time it took.
McCord was a lot of time, but I mean, like a guy like Jason Ellis, Tom and I were talking about it one day and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to go after him. He's like, okay. And then like, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, I was just shooting messages back and forth with Ellis. He's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll come on your show. Absolutely. And I was like, Tom, look what happened. And he's like, I can't fucking believe that.
And that's the funny thing. Like, I know you've said this before, Parks, where it's like, yeah, these guys are actually like, shoot a message. You'd be surprised what you hear back. Like, I mean, even, I kind of recently, in the last couple of months, started listening to Tom Coyne, knew of him, but started listening to his books. Tom, would you like to come on the show? Bang, message back within minutes. Love to. Just after May 24th, when my new book comes out. Sure, man, coming on. And it's like, wow, like you're a pretty well-known author. And it's like, yeah, man, I'll be there. And like shoots message back like immediately. And you're like, wow, that's wild that guy does that.
So I got to say now, though, as we've evolved, we have a little more street cred. People know of us. There's a little more to Google. There's a little more to the page. There's a lot more content. So even a guy like Paul Tesori that's on the other night, we had Ben Cook on from the PGA Championship. He was the little club pro. A lot of social media around him and Webb playing on the weekend together, and him and Phil, the photos and whatnot. So we got him on actually super easy. I just shot him a message. He's like, absolutely, I'll come on the show. And then kind of leveraged him to get Paul Tesori. But at the same capacity, the first thing Paul said when he jumped on with us, he's like, man, I've done a lot of homework. I absolutely love what you guys are doing. So harder for somebody that really has no content out there or no validity sort of to maybe land a guy like that. He might look at the page and be like, yeah, okay, forget these guys. You know what I mean? They're a joke. So it's, as we progress, we're gaining that street cred. And I think that's helping the cause a lot.
And I'm just going to throw, sorry, Brandon, one other thing, knowing that this is going out, I'm planting a seed because I've been working on one guest for some time and he has been a little elusive. Patrick Carney from the Black Keys, like him and I had like a 2-hour Instagram
Live.
back and
Yeah.
forth. C-Pays was dipping in, reading it. Like we were fanboying out
Fanboy.
for sure. But they released a new album.
Fanboy.
And he's gone a little dark, so I'm hoping maybe, however this is released, like we can include a tag of Officer Patrick Carney, so he comes and listens to this and understands he should come on the program and let's chat.
Brad, I got one more thing for you, and then you can have your show back.
Go ahead, buddy.
So one cool thing that Nick Saglanich, the tequila wanderer, threw at us last night, he said, I want to create some co-engagement. So at the end of this, anybody that's going on your platform, I want to throw out some merch. I want them to go onto my page, like my page, hashtag the 4Jack, so I know people are engaging, and then he's going to pick some random winners. So I think we want to do something like that with you as well. Try and create that co-engagement.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Any way that we can create a win-win for the both of us is 2 thumbs up in my book.
Absolutely.
People should just start mentioning at New 9 Golf on our page, maybe on our post. If
do
they
it.
do that, we'll give some merch out. We got some things to give away.
Yep.
Like it. How about let's do something right now. Let's throw up a story. Well, I got you guys as a little teaser for who's coming on that I can tag you, and then we can share it. This is a first for the New 9 Golf podcast.
Awesome.
Live Instagram storying. This is where I respect your hustle in life, because like,
Okay,
Beautiful.
boys, ready?
yeah,
What's up, Instagram fam? We are live right now. We are recording with the 4Jacked podcast. We're in my kitchen. We're talking about helping each other. This is a chance for you guys. If you don't know who the 4Jacked podcast is, hit the link, go check out their page, give them a follow, and make sure you listen to us when we're talking about golf and other related stuff. We'll check in with you guys next time.
I'm going to get a shot of us too here. Hang on. I got my phone.
these are the rabbit holes we go down.
Yes, exactly.
I just gotta say, I love the fact of sitting on the other side. Like Tom can attest to this. Like this is only the second time I've ever sat on the other side of the mic and not had to deal with this, like be on someone else's pod.
Hey, boys,
This is
smile.
lovely.
Beautiful. I'm the only one looking down. Love it.
Back to your regular scheduled programming.
Okay, back to the podcast. Well, that was the first. Thanks for being my first, you guys.
I hope we were all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll get to tell.
I'm looking at your I'm looking at your guys' website, and you guys work with like a lot of legit brands. Like you guys have like legit sponsors and partners. And one in particular, I have to give a huge shout out to, because if we had never met virtually, I wouldn't be obsessed with my new favorite drink. That drink is
Hecho.
Hecho Tequila Soda.
Please tell me you played with Zach. Have you golfed with him yet?
So no.
He will. He's in the 6 right
He
now,
will.
but he'll be back.
We have a mutual friend that I play a ton of golf with that knows him personally, and I tried that Hecho for the first time on the course. I saw it by fluke. I didn't even know that our course carried it, and the second I saw it, that brand recognition, I'm like, oh my god, the 4Jack boys were just talking about this with me. They have no affiliation to our show, but I will vouch that it's like my new favorite drink. It is the best drink of the summer. Even if you don't, people
Drink
that
of
don't like
summer.
tequila love this drink.
It tastes like summer, that's for sure.
I could drink 35 of them and black out and not be upset and be able to drink some more the next day. Like they're legit. Tell me guys a little bit about your relationship specifically with Hecho, and then the other companies that you work with, like Theragun and Blue Tees and TaylorMade and like all these guys. How does all this stuff?
There needs to be a bell noise every time you say it tastes like summer. Ding. We need to have that ding. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Parks can kind of touch on that as well, but like with the brands that we've been working with, I mean, Hecho especially, I'll get into TaylorMade first, actually, because I'll leave that with Parks because he's got more of the backstory. TaylorMade, you know what, that was actually kind of a funny one, because like the TaylorMade rep out in Alberta, which used to be a member of Belv, we had him on the show, Darren Evans, and I used to play golf with him a lot. And to be honest, we wanted to talk to him, but it was like, hey, maybe we can get some sticks out of this guy. He's like, can't help you boys, whatever. Talk to your boy Lance. And then it kind of just happened harmoniously, where it was like, hey, like call up Lance, and then all of a sudden Papa and Daneko is just showing up and looking like Santa every couple of weeks. And you know, like the boys take care of us, and you know, even to go through like the fitting program, like to go through a new fitting, I don't care who it's with. Like, obviously, I'm going to pump up Chambermaid and say you should go do it with them, but like, man, go get a fitting. It's sick. I could just hit balls and check it out on TrackMan. Like, it's really cool. So it's nice to have like a team behind you that can like just kind of dial you in if you have any sort of game, which I can every once in a while, but not very often. But thanks, Sam, for trying.
We won't talk about my fitting day. I don't even know if I could hit the shaft of the golf club. Never mind the face. It was embarrassing. Anyway, thanks, TaylorMade, for saving us. But as far as working with brands go, I mean, again, it's just kind of been that infinite pursuit of annoyance, just finding something niche and, you know, looking at things that aren't really prevalent in Canada and trying to associate ourselves with something bigger and beautiful and bolder and everything else that might be a great platform for them to explore. So it's been cool. I mean, a lot of people are interested in having their products showcased and talking to us. And now I'm sure, like you're getting people reaching out to you wanting to do unveilings and unboxings and talk about products. So it's pretty cool. I mean, once you get a couple, it's like, okay, maybe, you know, we can start asking people for stuff. And it's never really been about the money component or the revenue. It's been about like, hey, that's really cool. We love flight scopes, but who wants to pay $1,000? So maybe if we reach out, we can get one. And, you know, we've been fortunate. They hooked us up. So a lot of that, just kind of chasing it and asking. Sometimes you hear no, but it is what it is. But I mean, it's always nice to have people that are willing to explore that golf space to represent brands, because it's such a big component of what people had as far as a COVID sort of, I don't know, place safe haven or something to do outside of, you know, staring at their own four walls. So hope that answers the question.
It does, without a doubt. Go ahead, Tom.
I can touch on, like, I'm going to touch on three of them right now. I'll touch on Theragun, Hecho, and obviously, last but not least, Go Track Social Club, right? Probably my number one love of sponsors. But Theragun was probably one of the first ones that we ever got on board. And like, that's been an interesting relationship because it's been more about for our guests, to be quite honest with you. Like, we worked out a nice little relationship where like they're willing to send units to the people like we have on our podcast. If it's someone that's like cool and they're like, okay, like, sure. And that just helps us like build that rapport more with our guests, which is like the best part of it. Cause then it's like, okay, you just got a free massage unit for coming on the Four Jack podcast, which is like, talk about building rapport. That's like the best, is like when their glutes are sore and they're getting blasted by it, like epic.
That's what we call in the favors.
Yeah, we're paying the talent. Don't worry about it.
Paying the talent. And then my experience with Hecho was at like Parksy was working this deal and I was down in Phoenix, and Zach was also down there doing some business development. And so him and I ended up getting together for a round at McCormick Ranch, and it ended up becoming a battle, him and I versus these two giants, right? And like, there was one hole, I missed the green on a par 3, hit it to like 15 feet. And then I was like, hey, why don't you just put that Hecho beside the cut, right? And like, I drained this putt for par, like walked up, cracked it, slammed it. And he was like, wow, that like, and it started this trend with him, right? And I even believe that like you were a little suspect of getting down with the Hecho maybe at the first. You're like, I may or may not like this, but it truly is one of the most refreshing, hydrating beverages you can get, right? Like, I stand behind that statement.
No hangover.
No hangover. It's a lubricant to the body. But then I got to give a shout out to our boys at the Go Track Social Club, because I still remember the moment that thing was, I was at the meeting. They were going to have me be a part of the company, and people still think the T in GTSC stands for Tom. But I was like, no, I've done a lot of business with friends, and it's like, okay, there's a Cody who's one of our best buds. We still have him involved with the Four Jack podcast, but things are booming for the Go Track Social Club. So he's kind of taken a little bit of a step back, but like Garrett, love his take on like just fashion and general creativity. And they have a cool little team there. And I literally wear a Go Track Social Club thing every single day. Like there is one today I got a sweater, a shirt, and the hat on, and it's like my favorite thing to wear in the world. So that's a little bit.
That's wicked to hear. Thanks for letting me inside your guys' kind of process, because it's always cool to hear what other guys are doing and to work with legit brands, right? Like I'm sure there's been a lot of deals in the past just in general that go bad, but to just collectively work with good people first and then businesses, it's cool to make those relationships. Tom, you said you played McCormick Ranch, and you kind of downplayed how sick of a golf course that is. That's like one of the best golf courses in the Phoenix area.
It was a beast. I'm going to be honest with you. There were some tough holes out there, but yeah, it was more like, it was crazy. We played golf with these two dudes that were literally giants. One was 6'5", 340-pound offensive lineman for ASU, and then his 6'9" dad that, like, me and Zach were looking like a couple of hobbits running through the Shire with Gandalf and frickin' Gimli, or not Gimli. We were Gimli, but like, you know, just the craziest time. Crazy golf course, a lot of water, a lot of trouble out there. The par threes were just disgusting, like 200+ yards over water, complete carry. It's like, I'm going to hit a 5-wood, folks. But I did make the most insane up and down on the 17th hole to win the match. Like, yeah, loved it. Greatest day ever. That cemented our bond with Zach and Hecho.
That's awesome. Guys, we're almost done. I got just one kind of last question, and maybe again we can go around the horn or raise a hand, and however we want to answer this. The New Nine brand, like I've mentioned on your guys' podcast, it's about that, very similar to the Forge Act mentality, that it's, you learn from those bogeys, you learn from those lost balls, and you're always striving to be better in not just golf, but life as well. I'm interested collectively, maybe as a group, has there been an aha moment or some bad that has happened on the podcast, maybe a show or a production, or can you think of something that kind of taught you a lesson to help you prevail as a group moving forward?
No comment.
Yeah, there's always something, and it's never ending. But I think having like a good defined division of who's doing what, and just understanding that, like at the beginning there was a lot of like, we'll do this, I'll do this, and it's just like, and now it's like, did anyone get that done? And it's like, you can't really have it that way. Like, you kind of have to have that division, because it's a full-time job. Like, there's so much involved in it, and like there's a lot of moving parts. Like, for example, like, I'm going to get off this and I'm going to sit down and be editing audio for the rest of the evening. But it's like, that's a role that I take on. That's like, and anyone that runs a pod would understand that. Like, it's just another role. Parks is answering emails as we speak. You guys always running it. Tom, that guy's up till 3-4 in the morning. That's like, there's just so many parts to it. And it's like, hey man, if you can do a pod successfully on your own, all the power to you. And I applaud anyone that can do it. But it is, and it's probably not that bad if it's just you talking. But and as you know, like, if there is someone else involved, like a guest or other people, other hosts on the show with you, dude, there's so much work. And it's like, find what you can do really well. Say there's 2 or 3 of you, find what each person can do well and assign it. Go, do your thing. We'll meet in the middle eventually.
I'm having an aha moment right now, if I'm being totally honest, after the ethos of New Nine Golf. It's like, we need to somehow like be a family, right? Like, knowing what you're capable of. And as we continue to grow, it's like I just like the energy, and like, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see, like, because it takes an entire team to build this. Like, the bigger you get, the more it does. Like, another learning lesson is like, CPAs is going to go spend a few hours cutting after we're done this, but it's like, we need to grow to the point where we like bring other people in to start facilitating that aspect of it, so that he can focus on like doing research on Tom Coyne. So then when that moment comes, like, we absolutely crush it, right?
Are you saying this is a bit like therapy tonight?
Something.
I love it.
Brandon's a good mediator.
I'm loving this. I feel like I'm about to renew my vows.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you guys to that.
Yeah.
There's been enough circle jerking going on for me for a lifetime.
Oh my god.
You guys need to
Tummy
go get,
sticks are hard tonight.
you guys
Eh?
are in love, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to when we can all get together and do some video content, because that's going to be just one more level to get us out there and show the golfers. Not only can we talk about golf, but we can swing the sticks around a little bit too.
Here's your formal invitation, Brandon, to the Modern Meat Open VGT stop, August 7th and 8th, Newlands Golf Club, Langley, British Columbia. Come on out. There's a
Like
media
it.
day on the Friday. The Four Jack will be there. Hetchel will be there. VGT. It's going to be a crazy event. Modern Meat's the title sponsor. That's the company we work for. So, yeah, it should be a fun one. If you can make it out, we will definitely put you up, and yeah, we'll play some golf and have some fun.
I appreciate the invite. I'm going to do what I can to make it out, because a collab in person would be better than anything. So I'll see what I can do to make it out there.
If not, we'll get out to Tobiano and swing the wrenches. Maybe a little sagebrush action on the way.
Like it.
Definitely get him on the program for Sagebrush for sure.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna just about to wrap it up. We've almost hit an hour, guys. I appreciate your time. Last round of the horn, or going around the horn, is we'll leave the viewers or the listeners something to Google after this. I'll ask each one of you. You can play one course for the rest of your life. The best course you ever had an experience at. You're playing that course. What is it?
I'll kick it off. I'm going to just go ahead and say Rolling Hills, because I'm the only one of us that had the pleasure of playing it, but soon enough we will all have had the pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Right? Tummy sticks again.
And where's Rolling Hills?
It is kind of in Palos Verde, California, South Los Angeles, just right by Redondo Beach.
Right where Tiger crashed his car. It's one of the newer sort of private clubs, or newer envisioned private clubs. Fazio layout. Yeah. Good friend is director of golf there. Caddied at a club that he was director of golf at in the desert, and always stayed in touch. So yeah, had the
shout out Derek Lane.
Shout out D Lane. Yeah, for sure. Great dude. Just an absolute gem of a human being, golf professional. He's the one that is going to carry the flag forever. So love that.
And just to paint a quick picture of it, like, they have these greens that are rolling like 13 on the stimp, but then they have these surround areas that are greens that roll about like a 9, 5, 10 that are double the size of the green. So realistically, you have just this massive area around your green that, like, I had a 50-yard putt. And
Tom
I wanted
Fazio,
to chip it.
man. Tom Fazio, you gotta love it.
Hated it, but loved it.
Rolling Hills. Who wants to take another shot?
Man, this is a bit of a homer answer. I'm not sure if it's I don't want this golf course in this spot. I want it to move it to another spot. But truthfully, like, I hate to be this guy. Like, if I could actually have one layout to play for the rest of my life, I'd take the Northern Bear. I would just put it in the Turks and Caicos.
Touche.
Like, truly, like, I would just move it. It's a little cold, but like, man, best layout. You can't deny it. It's perfect.
And where is it?
Sorry, that one's just outside of Edmonton, just outside of Sherwood Park
Okay.
in Edmonton. So
One
it's
of
like,
only 4 signature Jack Nicklaus courses in Canada, my man. It is a fantastic property.
and it's everything you need. You know what? If you want to become a great player, play that. You will be. It's classic Nicklaus. It's just freezing cold for 6 months of the year. So we just need to transplant that somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But
Parksy,
that's
what do you think, buddy?
I'm gonna take a little different answer here. I'm gonna say I'll take any golf course that I can play with my dad one more time. That's it.
That's as good as it gets. Guys, that
I'll be
wraps
happy
us
with
up.
that.
Thank
Love
you
it.
so much again for your time. I appreciate it. I can't wait to hear the rest of your guys' podcast and to continue diving into other episodes that I haven't yet listened to. So for those of you listening that don't know the Forward Jack podcast, make sure you follow them on Instagram. They're on all social media. Make sure you download them on Spotify. Anywhere you can find a podcast, chances are you'll find the Forward Jack podcast. So guys, thanks again. And until we meet in person, we'll check in with you guys next time.